Everyone at the private airport lounge burst into laughter when the old man in the worn brown coat calmly said, "That jet is mine." The words hung in the air for a second, then exploded into mockery. A group of luxury travelers, pilots, and wealthy business people looked him up and down. His scuffed shoes, his faded cap, the small fabric bag on his shoulder, and the laughter grew louder. One young executive clapped sarcastically and said, "Sure, Grandpa, if it's really yours, go ahead." Started. The security guard smirked, folding his arms. The receptionist shook her head, already reaching for her phone to call security. The jet outside was a brand new, multi-million-dollar private aircraft, shining under the sun like a symbol of power and money. No one believed for a second that this quiet, humble old man could own something like that. But the old man didn't get angry. He didn't shout. He simply smiled, in a calm, knowing smile, and slowly walked toward the glass doors that led to the runway. Every step he took made the room quieter, not because people believed him, but because they were curious. Who was this man? Why was he so confident? The guard followed him, ready to stop him, but something about the old man's calm authority made him hesitate. As they stepped outside, the engines of other jets roared in the distance. The old man stopped, turned around, and looked at the crowd. "You told me to start it," he said softly. "Watch closely." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small key fob. Laughter broke out again. "That's not even the right key!" someone yelled. But the old man pressed a button. The jet's lights blinked. The laughter faded. He pressed another button. The auxiliary power unit hummed to life. The sound cut through the air like a knife. Conversations stopped. Smiles vanished. Faces changed. The pilot standing nearby froze. The receptionist covered her mouth. The young executive's face went pale. The jet, the same jet they had mocked him about, was responding to his commands. The old man didn't raise his voice. He didn't brag. He simply stood there, letting the truth speak for itself. And in that moment, every person there felt something heavy drop in their chest. Shame. Because they hadn't just doubted his wealth. They had judged his worth. They had measured his value by his clothes, his age, and his silence. If you're enjoying this story so far, remember, powerful stories like this only happen when you stay with us. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a moment that could change how you see the world. But this was only the beginning. Because what none of them knew was that this jet wasn't just a symbol of money. It was a symbol of a lifetime of sacrifice, loss, and quiet victories. As the old man walked closer to the plane, the chief pilot rushed forward, his voice shaking. "Sir, we didn't realize. Please accept our apologies." The old man looked at him gently. "You didn't need to apologize," he said. "You just needed to listen." The young executive, who had laughed the loudest, stepped forward, his voice small now. "Sir, we thought you were joking." The old man met his eyes. "That's the problem," he replied. "You thought, but you never asked." The jet's door slowly opened. The stairs lowered with a mechanical hum. Every sound felt louder now. Every second felt heavier. The same people who had laughed now stood in silence. Some looking at the ground, others staring at the jet in disbelief. The old man paused at the bottom of the stairs and turned one last time. "Life has a funny way of testing people," he said. "Sometimes it gives you a chance to show respect. Other times it shows you who you really are." Then he stepped onto the stairs. The door closed behind him. The engines grew louder. The jet began preparing for departure, and the room that had once been full of laughter was now filled with regret. As the jet taxied slowly across the runway, the people inside the terminal watched in stunned silence. But what they didn't know was that the old man wasn't flying for luxury. He was flying for closure. Decades earlier, he had been a young mechanic with nothing but grease on his hands and dreams in his heart. He had worked nights, slept in his car, missed birthdays, missed holidays, and buried people he loved, all while building a business no one believed in. Partners betrayed him. Banks laughed at him. Investors walked away. But he never stopped. Not because he wanted to be rich, but because he wanted to prove that a man's value is not decided by how he looks in one moment, but by what he builds over a lifetime. The jet was the result of 40 years of silent work. It was not a toy. It was a reminder. A reminder that the world will doubt you, mock you, and underestimate you until the day it can't anymore. As the plane lifted into the sky, the old man looked out the window, not at the clouds, but at his past. He remembered every time someone had laughed at him, every time someone had said, "You can't," every time someone had judged him by his appearance instead of his character, and instead of anger, he felt peace, because he knew something they didn't. Success is sweetest when it comes quietly. Back in the terminal, the young executive sat down heavily in a chair, staring at his reflection in the glass. For the first time in years, he questioned himself. Not his money, not his status, but his heart. The receptionist wiped a tear from her eye, realizing how quickly she had judged a stranger. The security guard loosened his grip, ashamed of how ready he had been to push someone away without listening. That single moment, that single jet, changed them all. Not because it showed wealth, but because it exposed pride. The old man leaned back in his seat as the plane climbed higher, and a soft smile crossed his face. Not because he had proven them wrong, but because maybe, just maybe, he had taught them something that money could never buy: humility. And if you're watching this right now, let this story remind you. Never judge someone by what you see on the surface. The quietest person in the room may be carrying the greatest story. The humblest face may hide the strongest journey. And the person everyone laughs at today may be the one everyone respects tomorrow. If this story touched you, inspired you, or made you think differently, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. Because every story here is designed to open your eyes, touch your heart, and remind you that true power is not loud. It's the jet leveled off above the clouds, and for the first time since leaving the terminal, the old man allowed himself to close his eyes. The soft vibration of the engines was not noise to him, it was a lullaby made from decades of sacrifice. Every hum carried a memory. Every slight shake reminded him of nights spent in freezing hangars, hands cracked and bleeding, fixing aircraft that weren't even his, dreaming of a future no one else could see. The flight attendant approached him carefully, no longer seeing a poor old man, but a man whose silence carried weight. "Sir," she said gently, "is there anything you need?" He smiled. "Just a moment to remember," he replied. She nodded and walked away, sensing that this flight was not just a journey through the sky, but a journey through time. He reached into his coat and pulled out an old folded photograph. It showed a younger version of himself standing beside a small, broken airplane with a woman and a little boy at his side. The woman had eyes full of hope. The boy had a toy plane in his hands and a smile that could light up any room. The old man's fingers trembled slightly as he traced their faces. The boy had once asked him, "Papa, will we ever fly in our own plane?" And he had promised, "One day, son, one day, I will make sure you fly higher than anyone who ever doubted you." But life had been cruel. An accident, a phone call in the middle of the night, a hospital hallway that smelled of disinfectant and broken dreams. The boy never got to grow up. The woman never smiled the same again. The old man buried his grief under work, not because he forgot them, but because building something strong was the only way he knew how to survive the pain. The jet was not a trophy. It was a promise kept, even if the one he made it to was no longer there to see it. As the plane continued forward, the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Sir, we'll be landing shortly." The old man nodded to himself. This was the moment he had prepared for. The destination was not a luxury resort. It was a small, quiet town with an old airfield, the same place where his son had first fallen in love with airplanes. When the jet touched down, people at the small airport froze in shock. They weren't used to seeing a jet like this. Mechanics, workers, and locals stopped what they were doing and stared. The door opened. The stairs lowered. And once again, the old man stepped out, not with pride, but with purpose. A middle-aged man standing near the hangar dropped his tools when he saw him. "Sir," he whispered, "is it really you?" The old man smiled softly. "It's been a long time," he said. The man's eyes filled with tears. "Your son, he used to come here every day after school. He said his father would one day own the biggest plane in the sky." The old man swallowed hard. "I finally did," he replied. "I just wish he was here to see it." The workers gathered around, not because of the jet, but because they felt the weight of the moment. This was not about money. This was about legacy. The old man walked toward the old hangar where it all started. The paint was faded. The doors were rusty, but to him it was a palace of memories. He placed his hand on the metal wall and closed his eyes. "We made it, son," he whispered. "We really made it." And in that moment, the laughter from the luxury terminal felt small. The insults felt meaningless, because true success had never been about proving strangers wrong. It had always been about honoring the people who believed in you when you had nothing. If you're still watching this story, it means you understand something powerful, that behind every quiet person is a story you may never fully know. And if stories like this move you, inspire you, and remind you to look at people differently, make sure you subscribe to this channel right now. Because every story we share is a reminder that the greatest victories are often the quietest ones. The old man looked up at the jet one last time, not as a symbol of wealth, but as a symbol of love, loss, and promises kept. Then he turned and walked into the hangar, carrying with him not pride, but peace.